ship this out today,
Right.
it'd have to be in the warehouse 2 years.
That's right.
Waiting. Okay, 2 years. And them trucks pull up every day and hit the highway. And as them trucks pull up, another load pulls into the warehouse.
That's right.
All over. So you got some baby food that's been in the warehouse 2 years. So what kind of additive did they put in it
That's right.
to let it sit there? And then the other thing about baby food is before a mother or a father, basically mother,
Yes, sir.
give a child baby food, they taste it first.
That's right. Yes.
So what they have to do is make it taste good to mom or dad, or they won't give it to the baby.
That's correct.
Now, the most important chemical plant in the world is your tongue,
Yes.
okay? Harvard, Yale, well, they ain't got nothing like your tongue, the universal God.
Right.
We ain't talking about the church now. We ain't talking about the one the priest belonged to.
Yes.
That it tastes for little young boys.
That's right.
We talking about the real. And you know, the problem with a pedophile priest and just an ordinary pedophile, as a father or as a parent, you don't send your child
That's right.
to the ordinary pedophile in the street.
That's right.
You send them to the priest.
Yes.
Okay, he don't even have to come out and put a little hustle down. And it's so incredible that the child is ashamed to come and tell their mother, because they hear their mother talk about the priest and the pope like they talking about they sit at the right hand of God.
Yes, sir.
Okay? And even when you tell your mom or your dad, they say, oh, no, this couldn't be. And all the priest got to say, oh, he just don't like me because I wouldn't let him eat no candy at so-and-so, you know?
Right, right.
And
That's
so
right.
that's the horrible part about it. And so when you stop and think about where all this goes, there's more to it than what they tell us. And why not? I tell black folks, if you got secrets in your house.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Dude hit this old lady upside the head.
Right.
And she ain't going to church and telling nobody he hit me. She's the pillar of society.
Yes, sir.
So you just put some more makeup on.
Right. That's right.
More makeup on. And so consequently, what we looking at here is the baby food.
Right.
For mama's taste. So don't forget the tongue.
Yes.
So when you drive them pins through your tongue,
That's right.
you have really violated the universal God.
That's right.
Because it makes functions, that metal there. Okay. See, the right nostril brings in the positive.
Right.
The negative electron, the right nostril, positive electron. So when you put them rings in your nose, you know, it messes up and the thing is so beautiful, it takes such a long time, you think it's natural causes.
Right.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
First, when you put a tattoo on, you got to see what's in it.
That's right.
Huh? Not just the social part.
Right.
That's cool. Huh?
That's right.
You got to see what's in it. Huh?
Yes, sir.
Because the CIA and them, they create trends
Right.
that you can put on
Right.
that will eat you up alive. Huh? And we don't know that because this is just the social trend.
That's right.
You know?
Yes, sir.
But the insurance, huh?
Right.
That's what you got to look at. Them tattoo parlors
Yes.
got serious insurance because you don't know about the ones that get infected.
That's right.
You don't know about the deaths.
Yes, sir.
And so if you have a tattoo parlor in Killeen, Texas, I'm saying this for a reason.
Right.
In Killeen, Texas. And I have one in Juke, Idaho.
Yes.
So you can't get a tattoo infection from Killeen,
Right.
and now you live and sue the person in Idaho.
Right.
So they have to take pictures. Take pictures.
Yes, sir.
Huh? The reason I'm saying this,
Right.
if you go back and look at the tattoos of the soldiers when they first come in service, that's why I said Killeen, Texas. Look at the tattoos. And then see them little cute, Billy loves Mary.
Yes, sir.
I'll be home for Christmas, dear. You know, all that.
Right, right.
And then go to the camps where they come back home after they've been to the front line.
Yes, sir.
And they dark, man. Panthers and all kind of vicious stuff.
Right.
And dark stuff, man. Snakes and all that kind of stuff. Then you know the effect that war has on the brain.
That's right.
It's the same person.
That's right.
that went to I love Mary. little hearts with arrows going through them. That's not when they're coming back. Huh?
That's right. That's right.
And so when you stop and think about when you go back to the, it's like people that chew gum. The tongue, when that gum hits your tongue and that chemical plant go up.
That's right.
That's rubber. And so the brain manufactures the acid to break down rubber. Well, there's two bad things about it. First, you don't swallow it. So they've created this acid to break up rubber because they think it's coming down that don't come down.
Right.
So automatically now the stuff that happens to your stomach and the nerves that's in that part of the stomach. And then who do you see chewing gum? Poor folks, wannabe folks. You look at Queen Elizabeth and them. Huh?
Yes, sir.
And so when last time you seen the Pope chewing?
That's right.
And so that happens. For instance, if you look at a child, you're never supposed to eat for one thing at a time.
Right.
And so if you had hamburger, you violated because you got the hamburger.
Right.
You got the onion.
Right.
And you got the bread.
That's right.
And you put cheese on it.
Yes, sir.
So when those messages go up to the brain cancels it because it would kill you. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So now look at a child. They take the hot dog off the bun.
That's right.
And old dumb us make them put it back on. Or they'll sit down and eat all their french fries. No. They eat some of that and some of that,
Right.
And all of that. So we so messed up from childhood.
That's right.
That you can't straighten it out if you don't know it need to be straightened out.
Right.
Okay? But then you start off and you develop certain stuff. You develop certain stuff like this, for instance. A child will develop doing what mommy wanted them to do.
Right.
Or dad. So they eat all of it together. And then that hits the stomach.
Right.
You're not supposed to take anything cold. That's why these people eating these cold shakes and weight loss and all of that.
Yes, sir.
Your stomach is 98.6. Now, put a skillet on the stove.
Right.
And bring it up to 98.6 and throw an ice cube in it. Yes, and you hear it go, shh. That's what happens in your belly.
That's right.
When you put cold stuff in.
Yes.
Now, it's hard to break because you wasn't told that.
That's right.
By your mother. First, you're not supposed to drink an hour before you eat and 2 hours after you eat.
That's right.
So that can, and so not knowing that.
Right.
So here's mom, take this baby food. Now, especially in the black community.
Yes, sir.
There's a white baby on Garber's baby food.
Right.
Or y'all selling carrots or white babies? Oh, now look at the research.
That's right.
You sitting in your mother's lap.
Yes.
And she's feeding you, and she's shaking. She got her knees, and she's shaking. Well, people don't know when she's doing that. That's a whole system. Nobody taught her. She developed it.
Right.
The spine is moving.
That's right.
When she's shaking you.
Right.
And patting you on the back, on the back.
Yes, sir.
So now, when that food go down with all the chemicals in, the alarms go off.
Right.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
Mom can't hear it because it's inside the baby.
Right.
Mom don't hear none of that. Baby just start crying. Huh? Now, as it moves in, you got all kind of problems.
Right.
Mom don't know it. So now, I'm in my mama's lap, and I'm looking at her.
Yes, sir.
Grinning.
Right.
You see, if you took a picture of me in this studio,
right,
you look at the picture, that camera caught everything in this room.
That's right.
The paper on the wall.
That's right.
So the eyes is the same way.
Yes.
The eyes see everything. It goes back into the... You see, you actually see stuff upside down. Right. I don't know why somebody didn't teach me that.
Yes, sir.
And it gets up here, it flips it.
Right.
But it comes in upside down. You upside down. Right. I'm upside down.
Right.
And then it flips back when it gets back up in here.
Right.
And so consequently, when that panorama picks up everything, so now the baby picks up mommy.
Yes.
And mommy's smiling, and he's smiling. Nothing happens to my digestive system when I'm looking at mommy.
Right.
So now I see this beautiful mother of mine. Even if she ugly,
Yes,
she
sir.
beautiful to me.
That's right.
Because ugly is some stuff that society said
Right.
was ugly.
That's right.
Okay? And it frightened women so bad, a multi-trillion-dollar industry in putting makeup on
Yes, sir.
and eyeshadow and all that.
Right.
I saw a woman with makeup on. She was blacker than the shadow.
Yes, sir.
You know what, Condoleezza Rice?
Yes, sir.
I mean, she could put rouge on. Now, as dark as she is, what she needs some red stuff on her cheeks. You know?
Yes, sir.
And while we're talking about her, remember, we think that this stuff white folks are doing was just special for Obama.
That's right.
The insult
Come on.
that they gave to this Republican conservative wench,
Condoleezza.
Condoleezza.
Yes, sir.
First, she had 5 PhDs. She had more PhDs than the whole president's cabinet.
That's right.
And they never called her doctor.
Nope.
Called her Condi.
That's right.
She didn't feel nothing. Condi.
That's right.
Henry Kissinger with his thug gangster self should have been under jail. Dr. Henry Kissinger. You can't even understand what he's saying if you don't know German.
That's true.
You know, and so when you stop and think about, they never called Madeleine Albright Maddie,
That's right.
huh?
That's right.
You know, so when you stop and think of how, and we don't feel nothing,
Right.
you know. So now, I wonder if she knows they got a soda pop darker than her
That's right.
called Dr. Pepper.
That's right.
They don't call it pepper. Dr. Pepper. And if you go to the store today and ask for a pepper, they give you a chili pepper.
That's right.
So this is what happens when you used to filth. If you live with filth, you become filthy. The problem is, if you don't know you filthy,
That's right.
you know what I'm saying? And you just keep moving and keep moving, but you got to hide stuff.
Right.
You know, you go to a white church, man, folk come in tennis, barefooted, you know.
That's right.
You go to a black church and them funny white churches, they dress up because they know it's something they don't want God to see.
That's right.
So they think they can hide it. But the universe sees through all of that. So now let me get back to the baby. Is nursing for mother. Looks up at mom and see her.
Right.
Now, the only thing different, I see mom all the time. The only thing different, I feel this good feeling going through because I'm eating.
Right.
And they are so clever, they never put the baby food in anything but a glass container.
That's right.
So you don't even have to pull it out. You can sit it in a pan of hot water
Yes.
and then feed the baby. And the baby, along with this good feeling, they see this white picture. And they think that's where it's coming from, the baby's brain. So they've done some research at UCLA that they take X amount of children that have gone through that ceremony. They ask all the questions. And then they take the baby's mama,
Right.
baby's cousin,
That's right.
daddy, and flash the picture in front of them. And you get an ordinary reaction because I know you.
Right.
Then they flash that little white baby on the garbage, and a good feeling running through. And that's the latest thing I've seen. It was a 29-year-old. That's how long that's there.
Yes, sir. Garbage.
You know,
Right.
they know because they got the best scientists in the world, and they know everything that have created in your brain, and they can put the right drugs in there. You look at the pharmacists.
That's right.
You know, why they give you one drug for arthritis,
That's right.
another drug for infection, another drug for a spider bite, huh?
Yes, sir.
The same drug. You see, if we looked at the poison control,
Right.
then we get an idea on how we can turn this around.
That's right.
The antidote
Yes.
to the poison is in the poison.
Right. That's right.
You know, you got to study the poison to find out how to make the antidote.
That's right.
You know, we ain't never studied white folks.
Yes, sir. That's
We
right.
never studied white folks. They brain,
Right.
they mind.
That's right.
What do you go through when you misuse somebody else
Right.
from a
That's right.
universal standpoint?
Yes, sir.
Huh?
That's right.
Why do people who violate little children, fathers and mothers that violate little children, have to drink and use drugs and all that kind of stuff, you know?
Yes, sir.
And so they tell you, oh, you Catholic, you just go to the priest and confess.
Right.
And the priest say, I forgive you. Walk in the priest now, I'll come to hear your confession. Tell me about Billy, not Mildred. You know.
Yes,
and
sir.
so the whole thing is how this planet works, man.
Right.
So when I'm chewing gum,
Yes, sir.
all that goes down and nothing eats a hole in my stomach. Now, I'm sure the gum people have done the research
That's right.
on what that poison do and what you have to eat and what you have to do this and what you have to do that.
Right.
Same thing with makeup.
That's right.
I mean, if I put a little acid on my hand and 15th billionth of a second, that's in my system.
Right.
Now, they've studied that.
That's right. Absorbed quickly.
And they know what happened.
Right.
When you think about fingernail polish and toenail polish, what kind of food? Ooh, some man told a woman,
Yes, sir.
dress up them ugly feet because I don't get this sex feel. And they do it. They don't know nothing about it.
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Right.
He's talking about my son's a chiropractor. He says, and they're making big money now, but in another 15 years, they'll make millions of dollars on the high heel shoes the women are wearing.
Yes, sir.
A fourth of all the bones in your body's in your feet.
Right.
But when they lock you into the vanity,
Right.
they lock you into style. When the universe made this body, it wasn't thinking about vanity.
Yes, sir.
It wasn't thinking about style.
Right.
Men, 99.9% of these shoes with the high heel, men made them, but they don't wear them.
Yes, sir. Right.
They don't wear them.
It's true.
And if I had the time and I could had the facility, I would go check them out and see if their daughters wear them.
Yes, sir. Right.
Because once you throw the pelvis bone
Off. That's right.
you set up infections.
Yes, sir. That's right.
And the different nylons when they came out with the pantyhose.
That's right.
Not until they started getting millions of lawsuits.
That's right. The
Because
DuPont.
the vagina cannot breathe through
Right.
nylon.
That's right.
In a woman, the vagina has the same care that the mouth.
That's right.
Because life got to come through there.
That's right.
And so when you stop and think about those infections start coming down and them lawsuits start coming up and they said, wait a minute, we ain't going to take these pantyhose off.
Yes, sir.
So they ran a thin strip of cotton.
That's
to
right.
them.
Yes,
but
sir.
because of the harm
Right.
that those panties, $5 billion is spent every year now because of the same thing. You pass it to the baby.
Yes, sir.
You pass it down. Women who use those wipes, Macoba,
Right.
wipes, the alcohol
Hand wipes. Yes, sir.
okay, as bad as that is,
Right.
it don't bother you as bad as the ones that have the stuff in to break down the bacteria. If you're pregnant, your baby's born with no immune system.
Yes, sir.
Just putting all
Right.
that junk
Putting
on
all
that
that-
you don't know what it is.
That's right.
And it's a chemical thing behind it. What do I treat the nylon with?
Right.
For men, if you buy a good pair of socks, will cost you about $40. That's a cheap good pair.
Yes, sir.
Anything else, if you got black socks and never washed the black socks,
Right.
you can be washing for 10 years and the water turned black.
Yes, sir.
What kind of dye did y'all put in this stuff here?
That's right.
That never dries.
It's true.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
And so when you stop and think about the feet,
Right.
pulls in all that stuff that goes into my body,
That's right.
you know? And so we don't know this because we're so busy locked on my car, the
Right.
spark plug.
Yes, sir.
But what we don't realize, I can give you a $900,000 or a $5 million Rolls Royce.
Right.
And there's a thing in it called a spark plug.
That's right.
It costs $30. If I take that out, your car don't move.
That's right.
So when we start understanding the whole body
Yes.
is connected
That's right.
and has the thing, you get angry, you run all that stuff through through the system. And that's why
system.
we call people who don't get mad, we say they're crazy.
Yes, sir.
They say they're crazy.
Right.
And so as we look and see, you know, there's a thing called fighting, flight or fighting. We need to get a show on that one day.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we'll definitely do this. Let's do this. We'll take this quick musical break. Family, you're listening to The State of the City, joined by the living legend, Baba Dick Gregory. We're going to take this quick musical break, come back in, and continue more of our conversation with the living legend, Baba Dick Gregory. So in the meantime, in between time, listen to this message, and we'll be right back.
You haven't got much time. You young folks in America are going to have to write the history. A lot of people get uptight, don't like your long hair, don't like the way you dress. And what you young folks have been doing, that noise, that sound might be the last one. Don't let them stop this true revolution. You have the power. So money is not power. Information is power. The day you was born, all the wisdom and knowledge that ever was and ever will be, you was born with.
This is a freedom song meant to go around the world. Critical time everywhere in the world. Wake up, cause we stand at war. Please ask yourself, what are you living for? So you say you're a no-limit soldier, but you're living off the lies that they told you about what and who you are. You ain't never been a thug, you was born a star. With all the ice and the platinum chains, I guess slavery has a new name. Willie Lynch gets to win again. Every time we hurt each other for material ends. Baby girl, your body not for sure. The money you give can't feed your soul. Don't you know you hold the world in your hands? So change the game, respect yourself, the world will fall.
Not a thug.
Feel the fire rise.
You are special. You are somebody. No more lies. Did you hear me? Did you hear me?
Today we really living in some troublesome times. The truth has been hidden, there's a war in our minds. The values they gave we have internalized. Oppression so deep we are desensitized. As we stand in the final hour, you can't afford to give away your power. Don't sleep off the lies they tell. You think you're gonna fall, but they don't know you well. Earth is gonna tremble, you just stand your ground. Warriors have faith in where your strength is found. Yes, I realize the battle is hard. We gon' go to war with the armor of God. Let your fire burn down all hypocrisy and rebirth the world ready to be free. Dream a life beyond what you see and finally become what you were meant to be.
You have the power.
Feel the fire rise.
Hello. Did you hear me? Did you? No more lies. Did you hear me? Did you?
Imagine life so beautiful, free of hate and war. Imagine you transformed your world because you wanted more. This day will come and you'll know that it's your time to fly. So stand today and burn the chains. There's freedom, there's freedom in your eyes. There's freedom in your eyes. There's freedom in your eyes. There's freedom in your eyes.
No more lies. You got to have a coolness. You got to have a wisdom unparalleled in the history of young folks. No more lies. Young folks, hear me. It's the violation of God to let a system reduce you below the dignity that God put in you. No more lies. They can't stop the revolution. They can't stop the revolution. They can't stop the revolution. That's an extension of evolution that God creates. The revolution. You have the power. What do I mean? Pick up a gun and stick? No. We're talking about love. We're talking about true revolution coming out of God's evolution. It's about love. It's about being lovable. The best way to enjoy freedom is to see to it that everyone around the world is set free. You can make a difference. I say to you, have fun and have fun quick, because recess is just about over.
Welcome back, welcome back. You're listening to the State of the City. That was, of course, our beautiful sister, the daughter of the living legend, Baba Dick Gregory, Sister Ayanna Gregory, Warrior Rise. And so we're coming back in for our continued conversation with the living legend. Baba, before we went to break, of course, we were talking about in terms of just really the health and the importance of taking care of this body. So let's continue on that before we go a little deeper into the conversation.
I'm talking about that because they know what fouls it up. You can have a cold, congested, and they know the stuff to give you to open it up and don't give it the cold.
Right.
Histamines. The universe gave that to us.
That's right.
And it throws off all the mucus when you're getting a cold. All the stuff in your nose are histamines. Then they come up with a thing called antihistamines.
Yes, sir.
To close up the mechanism that the universal God force gave you to throw it off.
That's right.
To throw it off. Then they come up with antihistamine. And you know, a whole lot of people never heard the word histamines until the word antihistamines.
That's right.
And so when you sit and think about, you know, and that's another thing we need to bring in. I think I know a guy in Chicago that know all the stuff they put in fingernail.
Yes, sir.
And toenail polish.
Right,
Little
and
children.
polish. That's
little
right.
Children, little bitty babies put that stuff on, you know?
Yes, sir.
And so when you stop and think about in the back of your, the warning on your toothbrush, the toothpaste.
Toothpaste, that's right.
Say if you swallow a pea size,
Right.
call the Poison Control Center, because an ordinary doctor is not qualified to save you.
That's right.
Okay, you have to move just like a brain surgeon is not qualified to take care of your toenail.
Yes.
And so we don't hear these warnings.
Right.
And so when you think about asbestos and all that stuff is in the makeup,
right.
the eyeshadow,
That's right.
the lip, what is in lipstick, man?
Yes, sir.
And they put just enough in that it don't bother you. Just a little bit go in, a little bit go in, and then all at once strange things start happening over long periods of time. In other words, if you take a quarter and sit on a curb with cement and rub that quarter, you just keep rubbing it.
Right.
See, we did that with children.
Yes, sir. That's right.
We'd rub a quarter down.
Yes, sir.
And then you take a nickel and rub it down. It becomes the size of a dime. Then you go put it in a machine.
That's right.
But just long periods of time. If short periods of time, you could catch it. You know? I mean, black women in America is 6% of America's population. 99% of fibroid tumors is black women, and nobody stopped and said, wait a minute, we just 6%?
That's right.
Of a country's population of almost 350 million?
That's right.
And the second highest number of fibroid is Jewish women. So
Yes,
now,
sir.
what do Jewish women, black women have? Nappy hair.
That's right.
A hair that the universal God gave you.
Right.
And then we're going to sit and say, oh, God, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Right.
Now, when I was a little boy, I never heard of fibroid tumors.
That's right.
Mother didn't have it. Grandmother didn't have it. Where'd it come from? You
Yes.
can't catch it. It's
That's right.
not a disease.
That's right.
It's not a germ. It's like this crap they tell us, West Nile virus is in the area. I said, oh, wait. I checked the West Nile.
Yes, sir.
They ain't never heard of it.
That's right.
They ain't never heard of it. It comes from mosquitoes.
Right.
Well, how did the mosquito get over here to America? Well, airplane, wait a minute. Egyptians haven't got one plane that fly to America nonstop.
That's right.
So how did that mosquito know not to get off at the first stop?
Yes, sir.
Y'all crazy.
Right.
It's that whole, the whole piece. And so as we hear, it might be too late for the older folks,
Yes, sir.
you know, because once you chew gum for so long, you're addicted to it.
That's
You
right.
know.
Yes, sir.
But somewhere, if young folks knew that, they'll ask questions. Why are we drinking this?
Right.
Why we have this? You know,
That's right.
It's like cheese. I never knew till an old black brother told me. He said, man, I'm going to get me, what's that you eating on them crackers? Some cheese. He said, what kind of cheddar? He said, is that orange? Yeah. He said, have you ever seen any orange milk?
Right. It's true.
But then you realize when you go where the rich folks hang out in the superstores, all that cheese is white, man.
That's right.
Expensive, but white. And so when we look and see how you turn this around, it starts with self.
Right. That's right.
I mentioned flight
Yes.
or fight. Now, all my life I thought flight mean take off and fight mean ball up your fist and fight. And I thought, why would the universe create something like that? Then I realized that flight means you hear a bump and you get out of there.
That's right.
Fight means you reach by and help the woman with the baby.
Yes.
That's all that's about.
That's right.
And that comes up. The universal God, I'm sure to see I got some stuff now can make you go in them different ways. It might be what them baseball players is taking and don't even know it.
Yes, sir.
And now they're talking about Aaron. Suspend him from life.
Hey, Rod.
I'd get me a baseball bat, man, if I was him. And you can't whoop nobody because you're nonviolent.
Right.
But I'd go make the manager take him to a hotel and the owner.
Right.
Now, you mean you didn't know I was taking steroids?
That's right.
When you hired me with that $100 million contract,
That's right.
I was wearing a size 7 baseball cap. 2 years later, I'm wearing 42. Y'all didn't see my head getting big.
That's right.
y'all didn't see my head getting big. You own it. You own it. You take care of stuff like a chicken farmer. Look after the chickens.
Absolutely.
And so all it was, that what brought people into the game.
Right.
That brought people into the game.
Yes, sir.
The excitement of popping balls.
Getting that ball out the park.
Out the park, you know,
Yes, sir.
care about nothing else. And so again, I say to you that when we stop and think about the chickens, the cattle, injections,
The food. Yes, sir.
to keep them from getting sick, keep them from getting poison
Right.
out there, it's eaten. And so consequently, when I get it, you know, that stuff is still in it.
That's right.
You look at these young girls now, man, they got breasts, look like they 38-year-old women, big old legs and all that, and I always say, oh, is she fine? Yeah, but don't touch it.
Right.
don't touch all that stuff. And they know that.
Right. That's right.
They cannot care less because there's an expression they use called useless eaters.
Yes, sir.
And when you hear that, you think they're talking about welfare mothers and rednecks.
Right.
Everybody, black and white, you will see in a lifetime, maybe 2 of them wouldn't be useless eaters.
Yes,
Henry Kissinger is a useless eater. When they put that together, they didn't know the real folks was talking about them.
That's right.
Those are all the folks they know they got to get rid of.
Yes, sir.
And so when that thing come out, I'll try to get it for you if you haven't got it. There's a document that Henry Kissinger came up with, Useless Eaters.
Yes, sir.
And it's located under lock and key by a federal judge. But some newspaper people came and went in there and got it.
Yes, sir.
It's supposed to be sealed for 50 years.
Yes, sir.
And it talks about
Right.
why global is warming.
Right.
Now, this shocked me. This planet was built for only 500 million people. This planet.
Yes, sir.
And when you see that, it goes through that.
Right.
So the planet's wobbling.
Right.
So they decided, well, how do we do this?
As far as depopulation
So-
of the population of the people, the useless eaters.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So first they said, well, at this rate, we need to kill about 300,000 a day. And we can do that with the food.
Yes, sir.
And then they wasn't moving fast enough.
Right.
So I said, okay, then we got to up this to 300,000 an hour. That's where we are now in the last time. I don't think we probably passed that now.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's right.
But this is what this is about.
Yes, sir.
And so if I put one person in jail,
Right.
one man in jail for 10 years
Yes.
at a young age,
That's right.
okay? So every time you have a sexual discharge as a man, 500 million sperms come out.
That's right.
That's a half a billion. I mean, 500 million sperms come out in one ejaculation.
Yes, sir.
Okay? So now if I can stop this,
Yes.
what do? I put this in the food, put this in the food,
That's right.
put this in the condoms.
Right.
That
Giving out them free condoms.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
please.
Free needles.
Yeah.
George Soros and the Open Society Institute. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Monoxin 9, that's
Right.
in the condoms.
In the condoms. That's right.
You know, that mixed microbe to keep you from getting AIDS and all that stuff.
Right.
They found out with a test, it's horrible, man. They did a test in Africa with
That's right.
1,000 African prostitutes and put monoxin 9 up in the vagina. 98% of them got AIDS.
That's right.
You know,
Yes, sir.
And all that crazy.
That's right.
In Baltimore,
96%
of men and women at some time or another have gonorrhea
Right.
or syphilis. Man, they wipe that out all over the world.
Right.
So you right here to John Hopkins.
John Hopkins.
They can't wipe it out,
That's right.
or did they wipe it in?
They have a virology institute here also, and one of the key persons there, a guy named Gallo, come out of France.
Oh,
He
yeah.
helped invent the AIDS
Yeah.
virus. You know, Robert Gallo.
Robert Gallo.
Yes, sir. So please continue.
And who's the guy out in California? It's a black guy. They had a patent on the cure.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'll get that
Okay.
information
Okay.
for you.
Yes, sir. Again, family, just tuning in, having a conversation with the living legend, Baba Dick Gregory. Well,
And so
go ahead.
before I
Please
said-
continue.
The shoes now.
Yes, sir.
They said, I was shocked. I saw an article on TV about it. And we've been talking about it for 5 years, that the, what they call beach slippers, or what the other one they call it, shower slippers.
Right.
They was never meant for you to wear that nowhere but in the shower or on the beach, because when you walk,
Right.
your foot moves. And the beach shoes, if you're walking in the sand, gives you the same feeling as walking in the sand, but you're walking on concrete.
Right.
There's muscles that start getting developed
Okay.
that shouldn't be developed.
Right.
And so now the operations have started.
Mm.
And the one shoe they was talking about was doing so much. They got an open lawsuit on them that if you wore those shoes, you can get big money, you
Right.
know. And so again, when you stop and look at what they send out here and what you get, I kept wondering why Hillary
Right.
Weiner, wife,
Anthony Weiner. That's right.
is her personal
Right.
secretary.
That's right.
Worldwide. They
Yes,
always
sir.
say this her brain, and never heard nothing from them.
Right.
Bill Clinton married them.
That's right.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
So then all at once I see Hillary fly in here and have lunch with the president.
Right.
I said, wait a minute, what is this here? And then find out that there's some criminal charges
Yes, sir.
about the wife.
Yes, sir.
When she was pregnant,
Right.
she took maternity leave.
Right. That's
But
right.
she was doing private consulting work,
Yes, sir.
which is a violation
Right.
with the State Department.
Right.
So that's why you hear him now saying, can this affect
Right.
Hillary's campaign?
Right.
You know,
That's right.
That's what they're talking about.
Yes.
Now, Weiner, and when he ran for city council,
Right.
he ran against number of white folks,
Yes, sir.
Jews,
Right.
and so he put out some information
That's right.
on the opponent,
Right.
Adele Cohen,
Mm-hmm.
and talked about that she is good friends with Jesse Jackson and David Dinkin, and put these pamphlets out
Right.
in people's house
Yes, sir.
right before.
Right.
And then he had to apologize.
Right.
Anthony Weiner apologized letter to Adele. This is the apologize letter he sent to her in 1991
Right.
about I am sorry. He number one now. I am sorry, and y'all need to hit that up, the apologize letter
Right.
that he sent. And then you see those racist tactics,
That he used.
huh?
Yes, sir.
That he used way back then. And so again, when you look at, the Trayvon
Right.
piece,
Yes, sir.
you start hearing stuff, and you it's almost so horrible. I mean, it just don't make sense.
Yes, sir.
The reason I was able to and something I never talk about, I'm having a meeting this week.
Yes, sir.
About the Kennedy shootings. I never say assassinated in Dallas. He
Right.
shot in Dallas.
Yes, sir.
That when little John
Right.
was in the line looking at the parade,
Yes, sir.
and he saluted the flag.
Right.
But if you look at the whole piece, he forgot to salute it, and Jackie nudged him. Then he saluted.
Right.
So I'm saying, as a father or a mother that just had your wife, your husband killed.
That's right.
How you take time to teach this little boy that? Then as I go into it,
Right.
then it's understandable how, and it's understandable how all them murders,
Yes, sir.
how all them killings,
Right.
and they just write it off to say that's when you just listen to one network, a bad omen.
Right.
Like the Kennedy, and everybody think it's because it's no good.
Right.
Granddaddy.
Yes, sir.
Bootlegging.
Bootleg.
Killing
Right,
folks.
right. Yes, sir. Right.
Going through all them
Kennedy
changes.
curses, they would say.
Yeah.
The death of John, death of Robert, death of course, John Jr.
One of them died on the airplane.
Right.
They sit in the bathroom, died from an overdose.
Okay. Yes, sir.
and we just, especially poor folk, we like to believe in voodoo.
Yes, sir.
Because we don't know what the word voodoo means. It's a French word. It means spiritual atom.
That's right.
You can't see a spirit and you can't see an atom.
That's right.
That's voodoo.
Yes, sir.
It's like they the ones that talked about, mortgage.
Right.
They're the ones that coined that. When
Yes,
you
sir.
buy a house, it's a mortgage.
It's a mortgage.
French, that's a death note.
Yes, sir.
Nobody buy a house but a fool. The rich folks don't buy no houses, man. I'm gonna buy a $400,000 house.
That's right.
With a 30-year mortgage.
Yes, sir.
In the first 20 years, I'm just paying the interest.
That's right.
Give
sir.
Give me a break.
Right. Yes, sir.
But the insurance company, if you look up the San Francisco earthquake,
Yes, sir.
they don't say earthquake. They
Right.
say fire.
Fire.
The San Francisco fire of 1906.
Yes, sir.
You know why?
Yes.
Because there's no such thing as earthquake insurance. So the fireman was being paid to go set the buildings on fire.
Yes,
Matter
sir.
of fact, the fire chief went to jail.
Right.
They're sitting there burning them houses, and all you ever see was the fire.
Yes, sir.
The fire.
Right.
And so consequently, when you look at, I'm looking at an article you sent me about I am
Trayvon. How the family patented the
no,
name.
wait a minute. How do I,
Right.
as a father
Yes.
or a mother, be thinking about some stuff like that with all the craziness behind it? But it could be legit or it could be a lie. When we checked it out and found out it's legitimate.
Yes, sir.
They patented it,
Right.
so you can't use it. Mm-hmm. But no, I know that's true because I told Farrakhan's folks, the minister,
Yes, sir.
when he did Dominion Man March,
Right.
I told his master, you better tell him he better patent that. Because if he don't patent Dominion Man March, the Ku Klux Klan can patent it tomorrow, and you cannot use it. If you do, you got to pay the Klan.
Yes, sir.
And so when you think about that's patent, you can understand that.
Right.
But then you go back with the same thing of the amount of money they paid out
Right.
for wrongful death.
Right.
But that was the homeowners
Homeowners Association.
association, and that was in the newspaper,
The Orlando
the
Sentinel.
Orlando Sentinel.
Yes, sir.
Now think about this. Here's a youngster that was killed on February the 26th,
Yes, sir.
missing.
Right.
Nobody could find him.
Yes.
He's in the morgue.
That's right.
He's in the morgue. Mom and Dad's calling the police department, and they saying, his name. So they had him in the morgue, listed as John Doe. In the police report, looking for him, they have him listed as a missing person.
Right.
Now, you find out that on Monday, which is the 27th, and first you have to look at that whole timeline. That's why I wonder what kind of FBI agents did the Justice Department send down there.
Yes, sir.
How many FBI agents did they send down there? The timeline, he's killed at 17.
717.
Yeah, I hope I got it right because I played that last night.
Yes, sir.
Front and box.
Sure, a lot of other people did too.
Front and back. And so now look at this here. At 7. Now the story they give us.
Right.
He's looking at the basketball playoff, the
NBA All-Star game.
All-Star.
Yes, sir.
And it was halftime, so he's gonna run to the store
Right.
and get him some Skittles
Right.
and some tea.
Arizona iced tea.
Arizona iced tea. And then I'll find out if you mix, well, I'm not going to say it on radio because I don't want no children.
Yes, sir. That's right.
But when you mix that together, you get more than just some candy
That's right.
and some iced tea.
That's right.
You know, I know they go there and get blunts.
Yes, sir.
But I didn't know about that other mix.
Yes, sir.
And so anyway, what happened?
I think it's called lean.
Lean,
Yes,
yeah,
sir. It's called
yeah,
lean.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
So you look at 7:17 halftime,
Right.
but the game didn't start till 8 o'clock.
That's right.
Come on, Mr. President.
Come on.
You need to get rid of them folks at the Justice Department.
Yes, sir.
Because somebody ain't telling you the truth,
That's right.
or somebody ain't finding out what the truth is.
Yes.
So when you start looking at the timeline,
Right.
now he's in the mark.
Mm-hmm.
Forensics is going all over the place
Right.
looking for stuff. Remember, this is basically a white housing complex.
Uh-huh.
We don't tolerate what y'all tolerate in the ghetto.
Right.
So now, I say, well, he's killed 100 feet from the house.
Yes, sir.
And now we say he didn't have no keys.
That's right. Right. He said he was coming back.
So how he going to get back in? Or was it somebody in the house? It could be somebody in the house.
Yes, sir.
He didn't have no identification. Well, anybody got children know a whole lot of times they run out just money to go around the corner.
Right.
And so, but if he did have it, then where are they?
That's right. Yes, sir.
Because if it wasn't for black radio,
Right.
oh,
Yes.
we wouldn't be hearing about him because they didn't know who it was, they said.
That's right.
So then the next thing you got to ask, I don't even know if I'd ask, did he leave his ID in the house?
Right.
And if it is, where is it?
That's right.
The other suspicious thing about it is the police came to the house the next day
Yes, sir.
to talk to the father
That's right.
with a bunch of detectives and homicide folks and a chaplain,
Yes, sir. Right.
a preacher boy,
Yes.
and showed him the pictures
That's right.
of Trayvon.
That's right.
He identified him.
Yes.
Well, the other thing is, how'd you know it was
Right.
Trayvon? People had no identification.
That's right.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
Wasn't nothing on the radio about it.
Right.
It's about a week later.
That's right. Yes, sir.
So how'd you know?
Yes.
But here's the thing. Once you showed him that on Monday,
Right.
how did he still lay there in the morgue for 2 more days as a
Right.
John Doe?
That's right. Yes, sir.
A John Doe, what's that about?
Yes.
Now, it might be legitimate. You can figure it out. Oh, it might be some kind of scam. Maybe it didn't happen.
Right.
Then somebody need to tell me those 5 cops, 5 of them cops that showed up,
Right.
they not with the department no more, including the police chief. They give it to him, bring in a black man.
And was that state's attorney down there, Wolffinger?
Yeah,
He,
yeah.
he even Wolffinger.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You know, and
Right.
so if you go back and say, well, how can one little police department make these many mistakes?
Right.
You know?
Yes, sir.
And so now when the homeowners insurance pay off, now remember the homeowners insurance,
Right.
that wasn't even an insurance policy to
Right.
cover.
That's right.
that.
Right.
He's killed on February the 26th. The policy's not taken out till March 30th.
That's right.
So can I have an accident today and take out a policy, an insurance policy, 3 weeks from now that covers this accident?
Come on.
Okay?
Come on.
And is this why a federal court had that policy,
Right.
lingo, locked down in the federal court?
Federal court. And it wasn't a federal crime.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Not at all.
Right.
And so, or maybe.
Maybe. Yes, sir. Right.
And so somewhere there have to be simple questions asked.
Right.
And if I fractured my toe when I was 5 years old and I'm about ready to sign a big sports contract for $500 million, nobody's ever signed this. You know what kind of health exam they're going to give me? And
right.
they got the technology now that can find my toe was broken.
Right.
when I was 5 years old.
Yes, sir.
That never heals.
Right.
So now they're going to tell us that Zimmerman had a broken nose and nobody's come up with x-rays?
That's right. Never seen a doctor who examined him?
Yeah,
They
doctor
don't-
examined
hospital
him.
records?
Y'all
Nothing.
just going to tell me, wait a minute.
Right.
Who's supposed to be asking those questions? Or is that part of the same team?
That's right. From the prosecutor to the defense team in terms of what we saw with,
Yeah.
with the trial.
You know?
Yes, sir.
And so when you stop and think about that, they got junk on Mars. Now I call it junk. It's not junk. Listening. And they got a multi-billion-dollar lab where 24 hours a day, those sounds are being monitored. And they can tell, was it a rock?
Right.
Was it wind?
That's right. That's right.
Or was it the sun belching?
That's right.
So you're going to tell me you can't take that with no two vocal cords or the like?
Right.
And when you see people talk, you see them little lines, they moving.
Yes, sir.
So you mean you couldn't get that?
Right.
And tell me if that was Trayvon or Zimmerman?
That's right.
And nobody asked why?
Yes, sir.
And then they say the judge threw it out. 'Cause
Right,
it said
right.
The science. Come on, lady.
Yeah, this is the same judge that said you couldn't even use the word racial profiling.
Yeah.
but we see more experts being used out on the West Coast with the trial of Michael Jackson, the Jackson family versus AEG. They bringing in experts from everywhere.
Yeah, you know what I was thinking to say?
Yes,
I thought
sir.
you were going to say it was more experts every night.
Right.
After the trial, he said, sitting there breaking
Yeah,
down.
yeah, well, that's
stuff.
true. We see more experts on TV after the trial every night.
Every
We've been
night.
seeing, you
Breaking
know,
down stuff.
black lawyers that probably never thought they'd get on CNN. They fighting them on. I'm seeing more black lawyers now on CNN
yeah.
than I ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
All because of the Trayvon Martin
Yeah.
case.
All right, the cop,
Yes, sir.
Cop gave me, no, I ain't going to lie on the cop.
Right, but what we did find out, Bobby, which we've always said have been pretty interesting since the Aurora, Colorado shooting, which we talked about that shooting and how there was a connection between looking at similarities between the father of this alleged victim, James Patrick Holmes.
Yeah, but
and-
first, I could have handled that case
Yes, sir.
in one.
Right,
Because all that stuff he had on, couldn't nobody identify him.
that's right.
You know?
Yes, sir.
Nobody see no red hair.
Right,
He was dressed down with so much stuff. man.
right. Yes, sir.
What surprised me is here's the guy they say gonna kill everybody in the movie,
Right,
but the cops catch him outside.
That's right.
Sitting on a car,
yes, sir.
you know,
Right.
and said we thought he was part of the SWAT team.
Yes, sir.
you
Right.
know, he wasn't trying to kill us or nothing.
Nope.
And then you find out the school he was going to on scholarship now.
Yes, sir.
It's the Colorado, what they call it?
University of Colorado.
Yeah, but the department he was in was a mine.
That was DARPA, dealing with DARPA.
Yeah, but this was the name of the school he was in. It was dealt with mine. It's the number 2 mine control
Oh, that's
school in the world.
Yeah, I think it's University of Colorado in Colorado Springs.
No,
If
yeah,
not right there in Denver. Right, outside of Denver.
yeah, but that was one of the arms of the school.
Right, yes, sir.
Now, that's the second most mine control.
Right,
The number 1, it's Virginia Tech.
right, yes, sir.
Now look at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, since the Civil War,
Right. That's right.
98% of the retired military folks, generals and all that, live within a 100-mile radius of Virginia Tech. That's where they pimping them contracts.
Yes, sir.
They're
That's
getting
right.
big money.
That's right. Yes, sir.
So that's the number 1 mine control
Right.
place is there.
Yes, sir.
So now we go back to Colorado, and we find out that his daddy,
Right.
just like we find out about
Adam Lanza.
Atlanta.
Adam Lanza up in Newtown, Connecticut.
But now,
Sandy
first,
Hook.
if you look at the movie,
Right.
the Batman movie, which
Right.
was completed 2 years before it was released.
Dark Knight Rising.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And there's a scene in there that shows
Sandy Hook.
Sandy Hook.
Yes, sir.
And nobody's saying, wait a minute. Sandy Hook?
Right.
How'd y'all know?
That's
They
right.
got the map where they showing
Yes, sir.
Sandy Hook in the Batman movie.
That's right.
So is it a coincidence?
Right.
So then we look up and we see, well, that little mind control boy, his daddy,
Right.
was probably the number 1 person dealing with fixing your credit scores.
That's right. Yes, sir.
Now, we've always heard that the reason all them poor folks He's got to get him a $500,000 house. He working part-time
Right.
at Wendy's.
Yes, sir. Right.
His wife, she working 2 days a week at McDonald's.
That's right.
So you pull that together, you can't even rent a cab drive.
Yes, sir.
But the daddy was fixing credit scores.
That's right.
He fixed them.
Right.
Yeah, but how did they get them? No, ask that.
That's right.
Just don't ask that like you jealous they got it. Oh, I got my house legit. So then who was he sending the credit scores to? He was sending it to the financial
Analyst. Right.
at what is it?
LIBOR.
No, I know, but it's a GM. GM.
Right.
GM have a they make more than just appliances.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
98% of all the nuclear plants on the planet is made by GM.
That's right. Yes, sir.
And so they send them to the boy's daddy in Connecticut.
In Connecticut. Adam Lanza's father. Yes, sir. Peter Lanza.
And so I got this boy's father in Colorado
Right.
fixing credit scores, going to
Right.
Connecticut. Dad.
Right.
And that's where the mortgage, and nobody's talking about investigating the mortgage money.
That's right.
How
Right.
much came out of that,
Yes, sir.
you know.
That's right.
And so when you look at those connections.
Right. Well, I've said that was looking at George Zimmerman all throughout the trial and throughout the investigation, and most of the news reports didn't report or say where George Zimmerman worked. They made us think that he was like a wannabe cop.
Yeah, and that's
you
a
know.
free job.
Right. But come to find out that he is a mortgage underwriter and auditor for a company called Digital Risk LLC right there in Orlando, Florida. And so I think you have to always look at this and look at some of the bigger pictures and ask those questions. Again, how was that connected perhaps?
And lived in a black community.
And lived in a black community. Yes, sir.
You hear me?
That's right.
Because they had us believe he lived there.
Right. No, he moved out of there, moved back to the black community in which he was living.
Yeah.
And what we found out was a few years ago, as I shared with you, when one of the cops' sons beat a homeless gentleman by the name, I think his name was Ware, it was Zimmerman that organized the rallies and organized the protest and organized getting support for the homeless gentleman at the time. And a lot of that hasn't been reported, but we've been reading that at certain news outlets and getting more and more of that information talking about just that. But I want to go to this clip. As we were talking about Trayvon Martin and looking at this case, but this is one clip I think of his parents talking about the putting the patent on the name of Trayvon Martin, and then there's a little more that I want to kind of add to the conversation as we look at this Trayvon Martin, and then looking at all of the aftermath of Trayvon Martin, but also looking and asking the questions you're asking. Who else was at that house the night that Trayvon was killed, and how come they wasn't brought to the witness stand as well to be witness to strengthen either the prosecutor's case?
Just told about.
Or told us what happened.
All the press that was coming out.
That's right. So let me go to this clip. We'll come back with more of the State of the City with the living legend, Baba Dick Gregory. Listen to this, and we'll be back with more.
We just appreciate the support that we've been receiving. We're thinking about next steps and the plans that we need to take right now to try to get some justice for our son.
They've also had to explain that they're not trying to make money off their son's name by seeking to trademark the phrases "I am Trayvon" and "Justice for Trayvon" for use on CDs, DVDs, and videos.
This is about protection and not exploitation.
Lawyer Kimra Major Morris, who filed the application for Trayvon's mother, Sabrina Fulton, said the family was worried that others could use the phrases to exploit the Florida teen's death, for instance, by falsely claiming to be raising funds for the family.
There are going to be many, as there currently are, people who don't have the family's best interest at heart. The purpose of the trademark filings is to protect against exploitation. The purpose of the trademark filings is to protect against exploitation. The purpose of the trademark filings is to protect against exploitation and to keep the heat on an arrest. And that is really our goal. And the family is not interested in a profit.
Major Morris said Trayvon's family supports efforts like the public service announcement released this week by Grammy-winning singer Chaka Khan, and is not trying to bar people from using these phrases on T-shirts or hoodies, items they believe are helpful to their cause. In fact, just 2 days after Fulton submitted her application, Marcus Singletary, a Los Angeles guitar player seen here in his YouTube music video, applied for a trademark for Justice for Trayvon hooded sweatshirts. In an email, Singletary told us he would, quote, love to provide assistance to the family, end quotes, assuming the product is successful. It's not unusual for people to try to exploit a famous name or event for their own profit. One reason Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s family has copyrighted his famous I Have a Dream speech, among others. The problem, one lawyer told us, is that it usually takes a year or more for a trademark registration to be completed, making Sabrina Fulton's move largely symbolic when it comes to providing legal protection in the short term.
It has no immediate benefit to the family. It just puts the public on notice.
Now, Major Morris told me that Trayvon Martin's family plans to set up a foundation in his name and wants to protect these phrases for their own use in the future.
And so this story continues. The family is still here in D.C., or are they getting ready to go back home?
They're still here in D.C. They have an event tonight, Wolf.
Thanks very much, Athena Jones. Good report.
Welcome back. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. You're listening to the State of the City. Let me go to this other clip, Bob, that I want to get your thoughts on that. And then this other clip from the young man who's supposed to be the son of Brandy Green, who is supposed to have been the girlfriend of the fiance of Trayvon's father, Tracy Martin. And this is a clip of this young man, Chad's father, talking about Chad and why we never heard of the name Chad, or why Chad was never brought on the witness stand, put on the witness stand as well during the trial, or just told us in terms of what they had known, as I've been reading some of these reports as well. So I'm going to try to pull this up and give it to you, and then we'll come back in and get into more of the state of the city. But I'm going to pull this clip up, and then we'll give it to you. Bear with me for 1 second here. And then I want to get into this headline, Trayvon Martin, before the world heard the cries, which I think is extensive in terms of the information that it shares with us, talking about what happened. But let me see if we can pull this clip up. This is an interview with Chad's father talking about what his son shared with him regarding what he saw and what he heard. So just ask you to listen with open heart, open ears, and open mind.
What went down that night? How did it play out for your son? Your son was with his mom,
right?
Who is Trayvon's dad's girlfriend,
right?
Okay. What happened from what Chad has told you that night?
Chad just told me they was in the house. You know, I asked him what they was doing. He said he was playing the game, watching TV. And he said Trayvon be on his phone a lot. You know, I asked him, I said, what happened that night then? He said, well, Trayvon, at halftime of the All-Star game, he wanted to go to the store and get a drink. And he asked Chad, you know, what did you want back? And Chad told him, hey, I'll take a pack of Skittles.
The Skittles he had on him?
The Skittles he had on him. And the rest is history. You know, Chad never heard anything back. He made some phone calls to his mother, to some other people, I do believe, and he never heard back from Trayvon.
Here's what I was interested in. Your son, so his buddy gets shot out in the parking lot.
Right.
Your son doesn't know.
Right.
Tell me how that played out.
He had no idea what was going on. You know, thank God my son just didn't go, you know, because it could have been even a bigger tragedy.
Go searching for
But he went to school the next day?
Went to school the next day.
The police didn't come talking to him?
Nobody came and talked to him. Nobody. I definitely asked him that over and over. No one came and talked to him. Chad didn't know Trayvon was deceased till he got out of school the next day.
He went on with normal life?
Yeah. Like nothing happened. He didn't know. He knew it was something wrong because Trayvon never returned with the Skittles.
Well, welcome back. Welcome back. Just adding that evidence into, again, the discussion this afternoon. Thoughts and comments, Baba, on the first clip and now on the second clip that you heard?
Well, you see, you have so much information that comes out that a lot of people would doubt it because they didn't hear it on NBC or CBS or ABC.
Yes, sir.
And the more and more come out. So you go back to the payout.
Right.
Of the insurance, well, that come out of the newspaper.
Yes, sir.
In Florida.
Right.
So we say, well, maybe they could be lying. So let's check. If you the FBI,
right,
not the Southern FBI,
right,
you know, because we know how some of them reacted to the calls and the screams.
Yes, sir.
You know, but that's why you need an independent. And that don't mean when the trick is so big.
Right.
You know, then you can even set that up too. I believe the whole jewelry was fixed.
Right.
I believe all of them had rehearsed.
Yes, sir.
And when they went there,
right,
they
yeah. Even I got to add, because even that young lady that they tried to say was Trayvon's girlfriend, We have documents and information showing that she was not the young lady that was on the phone with Trayvon
Yes.
when he was killed, Rachel Gentile. There was
Yes.
another young lady by the name of Dee Dee. And even we saw the press conference, and if I don't play it today, I will get into it and share that with you, with the lawyer Crump talking about she was underage, so they had some concerns with her being underage, 16, being placed on the witness stand. So, you know, I'm curious how none of that, again, as we've talked about, has been, I think, brought to the surface to talk about. And also, what we did find out that Brandy Green's sister, her name is Zakia, she also lived in the home and may have been home the night that Trayvon was actually killed.
All of them lived in one.
All of them lived in that house. Yes, sir.
many-
He said, "How many bedrooms in there? It might put a bedroom tax on them, like they did, like they're doing in London." but her sister now, who's been has a lengthy arrest record as well. So it's just some questions there, I think, that have to be asked in terms of, again, why we haven't seen that information and why that information hasn't been brought out.
Involved with this case that nobody's talking about? I say that because they're going to do such thorough
Right.
information
and
You have
investigation.
to wait on these other research people.
Yes, sir.
That's more in the research than the selling newspapers.
Right.
So was there any other lawyers?
The
involved?
lawyers I've seen that was involved was, again, Crump and Parker law firm. And then there was a guy named John Morgan and Morgan law firm.
Yeah, huge.
Yes, sir. Huge law firm in Orlando. And he apparently is a chief fundraiser for President Barack Obama. He's what they call one of his bundlers.
Yeah, that's right. He's the one that did that, $40,000 a plate dinner?
$30,000 plate dinner.
Yeah.
I think it was the night before Trayvon Martin was killed of the NBA weekend activities, because you know they turn it into not just a game now; it's a weekend,
whole
Friday,
thing,
Saturday, Sunday, probably Monday as well. But I think they had a $30,000 a plate dinner at
Where
one of the. I think it was one of the NBA players' home, but it was hosted by John Morgan. I think it was Vince Carter whose home they hosted it. But again,
in Miami,
either in Miami or Orlando.
Orlando.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So the president was there.
The president was there, almost similar
What
to
do you mean? The night of or the night after?
either the night before or the night of.
Okay.
So
because the
NBA All-Star game was on Sunday.
Sunday.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
And so as more and more come out,
Right.
it's like when Ron Brown
Yes, sir.
was killed,
Right.
and some white folk called me and said, "We got something you need to see."
Right.
Well, it was the folk did the autopsy at the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology
Yes, sir.
on 16th Street,
Right.
where the old Walter Reed Hospital used to be.
Right.
And it kind of shook me because I'm wondering, me, a black person, talking about being fair, and if a body would have came in of a white Secretary of Commerce, and I see a bullet hole in his head, would Dick Gregory
Yes, sir.
put that out there,
Right.
knowing that I got one more rank to make before I become a general?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was 6 white folks, including the woman with the Navy, that I talked to.
Yes, sir.
Now, there was whole lots of other folks
Right.
that went in there,
Yes.
but they didn't know how they was going to get out.
Right.
So I get it. And you can't get it out. So we hold a demonstration
Yes.
at the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology on Christmas Eve.
Right.
Christmas Eve.
Yes, sir.
High. And so they wouldn't arrest. They wouldn't arrest us. We tried to get arrested. So I said, okay, here's what we do. Somebody go get some yellow tape, and we'll run it across 16th Street and stop commerce. Did we get arrested? You better know it. But they take me around the corner to the police district there. A dumb white cop. First, he didn't know who I was. And so then all at once, he said, well, I got orders to let you go. I said, no, you're not. You got a lawsuit, brother. You can handcuff me and bring me around here. That's called kidnap. I told you you had no right to arrest me. And he said, well, just a minute. So he came back and said, I ain't never seen nobody that didn't want to get out of jail in a black cop said, he just ain't no ordinary somebody. You got your hands full. We didn't have no choice. He was the arresting officer. So he came by, and he said, well, if you're not ready to leave here, then we got to send you downtown, and they're going to keep the court open a little bit on this Christmas Eve for you. I said, well, that's what they better do.
Yes, sir.
So I go there. Now, I know now they trying to trick me out of jail. When you arrested Gregory, you say what you arrested me for.
Right.
Demonstrating about information I got that Ron Brown was shot in the head.
Yes.
There never was a plane wreck.
That's right.
And I guess the guy who ran the little airport over there
Right.
tried to get off there. He said, well, no bad weather. Well, I don't know. They found him dead the next day, and they said he died from suicide. He was so upset over
Yes, sir. Right.
the tragedy.
Right.
And there's a lot of information of that woman with the New York Times.
Yes, sir.
You know, this is before they knew that it wasn't a plane wreck.
Right.
That she had survived in an artery,
Mm-hmm.
and they went in and cut it more.
Yes, sir.
There'll be no survivals of this.
Right.
So what happened is, so I get downtown, and I'm really worried that I can't say nothing because they might trick me out of.
Right.
And so I got there, and I didn't say nothing. So then they bring this white attorney out, lady, not 90 years old. That's her Christian work.
Yes, sir.
So she told him she thought I was crazy because I didn't say nothing.
Right.
Didn't want to be tricked out. And then by that time, Attorney Faye Williams
Yes, sir. Ife Williams.
came by. Ife Williams.
Yes, sir.
Came by. And so I ended up staying from Christmas Eve till the day after New Year's Day.
Right.
And then we go to trial,
Yes, sir.
and the case is thrown out. Ain't nobody gonna hear nothing about this here.
Right.
You know.
Yes, sir.
And so I'm saying that when you sit and look,
Right.
and then you say, well, wait a minute, something's not right about this picture. Well, had I not known about the bullet hole,
Yes, sir.
so then I get I'm received by a government agent. Could have been or not. I don't know.
Right.
But I know if the FBI come by your house and want to talk to you,
Right.
all you do is ask them, say, let me see your badge,
Yes, sir.
and let me write this down. That scares them.
Right.
Because Hoover didn't allow that. You know,
Yes, sir.
no mistakes. You can't trace them back to nobody.
That's right.
And so I meet this guy, I think I was in Atlanta, he called my room, we need to talk to you. And here's the way he said. He said, now, if that was a bullet hole in the
Right.
back of his head,
Yes, sir.
we can explain how it got there.
Right.
He said, the Israelis was called in because they was kind of worried about sabotaging the plane.
Yes.
And they didn't have enough armed guards, so 2 Israeli guards was on the plane.
Is that right? Yes, sir.
They talking old slick dick.
Yes, sir.
They ain't call me everything, but they just call me Little Dick as a nickname. And I felt bad, but I just thought I was a late bloomer.
Yes, sir.
Never happened, man.
Right.
So anyway, he said to me, here's how they talk now.
Right.
So you can give them a way out. He says, so now what we believe happened
Yes.
is when the plane crashed. Now, I never knew there was a left-hand rifle and a right-hand rifle. The right hand of the Israeli guard went off
Yes, sir.
and hit him in the back of the head. Now,
Right.
we can explain that. You still want a piece of this? I said, well, let me explain something to you. Y'all got to go back and redo the death list because there was no Israeli guards listed in the autopsy list.
That's right.
He said, oh, well, come on, let's can we talk?
Yes, sir.
No, I'm just telling you. You just told me
Right.
that there was 2 Israelis that was augmenting the security.
That's right.
And now, at least, I don't think the people that gave me the stuff told me what kind of rifle it was. He did.
Yes, sir.
And so we said, well, wait a minute now. So then the next thing is what's her name? Ron Brown's daughter.
Her name escapes me.
She said, well, they asked her about what. I said, well, I don't know if it make a difference because nothing now can bring him back, bring my daddy back.
That's right.
So I get on the radio and read her statement. And I said, young lady, I bet if your daddy was mugged to death in the ghetto and beat to death with a brick by some brothers, I bet you wouldn't say, well, Dick Gregory would appreciate it, but nothing can bring daddies back.
Right.
You know, you'd be pursuing it.
That's right.
And pursuing it. I said, do you realize how much money's waiting out there for you if it's find out it wasn't no plane wreck and then all them other people that died?
Sir. Clearly. Yes, sir.
And so which means, you know, that so many people are part of these conspiracies.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And poor Ron Brown made the mistake to tell Clinton
Right.
that when I come back, I got to go before federal grand jury about that money I brought back here from China for you.
That's right.
And if you think me and my son going to jail,
Yes, sir.
you tell that to Clinton?
That's right.
Slick Willie?
Yes, sir.
Please.
Right.
Boom. It happens every day, but we don't hear about it.
That's right. Yes, sir.
And it's been happening, except there was not radio stations like this. There was not people that would go out. People would go out and they'd be killed and they'd say suicide.
Right. That's right.
Hoover, you know, Gene Dixon.
Yes, sir.
And those of y'all don't know it, just kind of pull it up. And Grandma keep telling y'all, get you somebody. You know how to make good biscuits and good cornbread. Make some good biscuits and good cornbread for somebody to know how to use a computer.
That's right.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
And let them know when you call over there and say, could you look this up for me, honey? And they know where you said it. If they don't,
That's right.
the biscuit's going to be cut off.
That's right.
Cornbread's going to be cut off.
That's right.
You know, you said my cornbread's so good, you put mayonnaise and mustard on it.
Yes, sir.
Sound like I'm eating me some steak and stuff. And then you look at the information
Right.
that's there.
You have to.
And so when you think about it, first go up and look up grand jury.
Yes, sir.
So the grand jury that was going to interview Ron Brown
That's right.
when he got back.
Yes, sir.
You know. And then again, one of his ladies, they wrote a book called The Body of Ron Brown. That's where they mentioned the bullet hole.
Yes, sir.
But it was a book putting him down.
Right,
oh,
right.
Man, talk
Yes,
about
sir.
him like he was a gangster.
Okay.
You understand?
Right.
And
Go ahead, because I want to do this before we transition and open up the lines. I want to get your thoughts on this. Yesterday, I believe, the State Department, the White House, issued, of course, global warning and shut down at least a dozen embassies and countries in the Middle East and around the world. But please don't continue on to Ron Brown. Then I want to get your thoughts on that.
So now Ron Brown had a little girlfriend.
Yes, sir.
So he had a bunch of them.
Right.
But the one was this billionaire woman.
Yes, sir.
Ambassador.
Yes, sir.
To France.
Yes, sir. That was
Harriman.
Pam Harriman. Yes, sir. That's right. Right. Married to the Harriman brothers. One of them. Yes, sir.
She said, I don't know why they killed my man.
Yes, sir.
She's the one sitting up in the funeral.
Yes, sir.
You know, next to the wife.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened is, next day she dead.
That's right. Yes, sir.
She get back to Paris.
Right.
She living at the Ritz-Carlton
That's right.
Hotel.
She was the ambassador.
So she goes down to swim,
Right.
do her exercise, and fall dead in the swimming pool. So I keep saying, if she was that sick,
Yes, sir.
she still felt spodiodium. I mean, she had a heart attack
Right.
and a stroke.
Yeah.
I said she felt that good to get in the swimming pool
Yes, sir.
with her rich self.
Right.
Boom. Okay, that's out the way.
Right.
And so there were some folks who wasn't on that plane.
Right. Some who were supposed to have gotten on the plane and didn't get on the plane.
Well, no, not because they suspected
Yes, sir.
anything.
Right.
They just thought, well, that's so minor.
Right.
To Bosnia.
Yes, sir.
That and I'm with you.
Right.
And one of his chief guards. Now you got to wonder, did he know something?
Yes, sir.
So anyway, they decided to tell them folks.
Mm-hmm.
Say like it was we throwing a birthday party.
Right.
Pam's in Paris.
Right.
That's why the plane's stopping in Paris.
That's right.
And we're gonna have a hell of a birthday party for him.
Right.
And she would kind of like y'all to be there.
Yes,
to
sir.
surprise him. So they sent in a special plane for them.
Right. Yes, sir.
The ones that wasn't supposed to be on that plane.
Right.
Now the other thing was the chairman of Northwest Airlines
Yes, sir.
and another big dude.
Right.
You can check it out. The next day, man, they listed them as dead.
Mm.
They was on the plane
Right.
with him
Yes,
when
sir.
it left here.
Right.
And man, they was trying to get hold to comment
Mm-hmm.
and find out. They said, "Oh, no, they came back early.
Yes, sir.
They wasn't on the plane."
Right.
You know. So it gets nasty and
That's
mean.
right.
And a lot of stuff you don't have time to talk about because it's not important if you're not running the
Right.
thing. And I'm gonna tell your friends when y'all hear him talk, wait till you see what he can't talk about.
That's
I
right.
mean, not can't.
Yes, sir.
But y'all would discredit him.
That's right.
Y'all would discredit him. I got so much stuff that I know that I can't talk about and I wouldn't want to talk about.
Yes, sir.
You know, there'll come a time
Right.
when you can.
Yes, sir.
You know,
Clearly. That's right.
But when the truth come out about the Kennedy thing
Yes, sir.
and about Haile Selassie,
Right.
you see, Haile Selassie
Yes,
was
sir.
killed.
That's right.
The reason was
Yes.
he didn't know in a white supremacy system that you're not supposed to come to one of them funerals like that
Right.
because protocol, he's the number one track of blood, and he had to let everybody, Queen Elizabeth, all them kings that we don't never heard, they had to line up behind him.
Yes, sir.
Did you hear me?
That's right. Yes, sir.
He was number one, Lion of Judah.
That's right.
I sit and looked at that. Hell, you crazy? You think Queen Elizabeth gonna tolerate? She knows some more of her friends gonna die. She gonna have to be there.
Yes,
she
sir.
ain't lining up behind you.
Right.
Once it's over for him.
That's right. Yes, sir.
So that's the game.
Again, family, just tuning in and having a conversation with the living legend, Bobby Dick Gregory. Well, speaking of Queen Elizabeth, I think tomorrow she celebrates her birthday. President Obama celebrates her birthday. So August the 4th is a very significant and important day. There's some significant days in the civil rights movement, the death and discovery of the bodies of the three civil rights workers, Goodman, Cheney, and Schwerner, as well as some other significant dates. But what came out yesterday was, of course, the warning about...
Before you get in, let me tell you the significance of how they found them three bodies.
Yes, sir.
I put up a $25,000 reward
Yes.
for whoever would give information. See, if you ever had a loved one that was killed and you put up a reward, don't put up $100,000 reward. With that boy, that baseball boy living around here, put up $100,000 yesterday.
Yes, sir. Cal Ripken for his mom.
For his mom.
When she been found.
Yeah, no, they let her go.
Yeah, they let her go.
And so, but
right.
I figured when they snatched her, they was sending him a message.
Sending him a
because
message.
he's on the board of that foundation.
Second Mile Foundation.
Second
with
Mile Foundation.
Jerry Sandusky.
Jerry
Yes, sir.
Sandusky.
That's right.
I figured they would send a message.
Yes, sir.
They didn't ask for no money.
No.
He told the FBI must have thought he was crazy.
That's
They
right.
nobody asked for no money.
That's right.
They just took your mom.
Yes.
And then he called back and said, "Oh, she called me from such. They let her go."
Right.
Oh. So I figured that was just a message sent.
Yes, sir.
So I figured it must be somebody called him and told him,
Right.
man, this is some kind of trick. So now a year later, he puts up $100,000.
Yeah, a year later, he put it up. Yes, sir.
Reward.
Right.
For the person who took your mother.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That we find out who it was.
Yes, sir. Right.
I hope he don't mean that because it might put handcuffs on him.
Yes, sir.
He get really nasty out there. So anyway, now you got to Google this for the next time I come back.
Yes, sir.
I put up $25,000 reward.
Yes.
To find them. The first time in the history of the FBI they ever put up a reward.
Yes, sir.
They put up $30,000. Never before.
Yes, sir.
Out of all the tragedies, huh?
Right.
Out of all the tragedies, they never had put up a reward. Well, the universe works nice.
Yes, sir.
The old white boy that called me and gave me the information
Right.
also was going to hustle the FBI. Gave them the information.
He worked both sides.
So
Yes,
they
sir.
knew their
Right.
bodies was under the viaduct.
Right.
I knew they was under the viaduct.
Yes,
right?
sir. Right.
So now I'm not going down there to pay off because it might be the ones, it's the government that did it, trapping me. So
Yeah.
I knew.
Yes, sir.
So I had some folks get in contact with him and tell him how I make out the check and all of
Right.
that.
Yes, sir.
Now he don't know I know
Right.
that he done sold it to the FBI too.
Right. Yes,
3
sir.
weeks passed.
Yes.
Nobody found it.
Right.
I know they know because I know.
Right.
So I'm in San Francisco. So I'm going to Hawaii. So I hold a press conference. See, Mr. Johnson, Mr. President Johnson, I know the FBI know where the bodies are.
Yes, sir.
I know where the bodies are.
Right.
So I'm giving y'all 12 hours to find them.
That's right.
Here's the key. I'm coming back from Hawaii
Yes, sir.
on a private plane that don't make no stops. In 12 noon tomorrow, I'll be under that viaduct digging them bodies up.
Yes,
now
sir.
they know I know.
That's right.
They found them bodies in 3 hours.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Otherwise, they never would have been found.
Yes, sir.
This is the vicious game
That's right. Yes, sir.
that they played. Not to get back to
Talking about August the 4th in the U.S. Embassy issuing the warning and closing down embassies tomorrow and Monday. This is also 2 days before Hiroshima.
Yeah, well, me and my wife, when we want to upset the government,
Yes, sir.
I'll call her
Right.
on that tap phone and read the alphabets off to her backwards.
Yes, sir.
Them ignorant.
Right.
You know how dumb you got to be to want to be a spy.
Right.
You can't be a spy without going to college. You can't be FBI without going to college. Can you imagine how stupid you got to be to go to college with aspirations of being a spy? That's like wanting to be Mickey Mouse when you go. You know? And so consequently, when you so you can trick them.
Right.
So I wonder if I called in and told them that, and they're so stupid they're gonna alert everybody.
Everybody,
No,
shutting them
first, I don't believe it ever happened, because if it did, you wouldn't warn nobody but the people that need it. You wouldn't put it out here in the street.
That's right.
Because you just told the folks, don't do it
Yes, sir.
this week.
Right. That's right.
Don't do it this week.
Right.
Wait till Labor Day.
Yes, sir.
You know?
Right.
So why would you put that out there
That's right.
unless you have another agenda?
Yes, sir. Right.
Or you want to scare folks,
Right.
or if something happens here,
Yes, sir.
then we've already been alerted.
Right.
We knew they was going to do
Do
it.
it.
They say we listen in to the messages.
Right.
Now, what fool? All the time they were showing us pictures of Bin Laden
Right.
and the message he was sending. Why would you tell us that? Why would you, the FBI and the CIA, they are authentic?
Right.
Why would you tell me
Right. Right.
what my so-called enemy can't tell me, because NBC won't let him on?
That's right.
But y'all put it on.
Right.
Huh? And it just keeps happening and happening and
That's right.
happening and happening. And so consequently, when you stop and think about, there's a possibility something would happen.
Yes, sir.
See, if you look at most of the school
Right.
happenings,
Shootings.
it was on April the 19th.
Yes, sir. Right.
That's the day for Hitler's birthday.
That's right. Yes, sir.
And so I can't understand the one in Delaware was on the 20th. See, see,
20th.
first, see, you never celebrate your birthday on your birthday.
Right.
See, a lot of people don't know that.
Yes, sir.
Because for 9 months you in your mother's belly,
That's right.
and you're not moving.
Right.
Except when she walks across the floor and your body moves in that water.
Yes, sir.
That's what them rides are about at the circus, to create that same atmosphere that you had before you was in this outside planet.
That's right.
That moving up and down and up and down and up and down. So that's what the circus is about.
Right.
The
That's right.
rides.
Yes, sir.
You know,
Right.
one fly off and go to another county, and them children down there mad. When y'all gonna start this up again? I saw her fly past my head. Come on, we want to let Mama stand there too. Damn it, get this thing fixed. I brought this little beady head, long head, spazzing out of the head boy down here.
Yes, sir.
And I found out what my wife always, man.
Right.
That's before Disneyland was here.
Right.
Why she would go and take them children to California and stay 2 weeks over.
Yes, sir.
And I went with her one time.
Right.
And you ever been to Disneyland?
No.
You ever been to Disneyland? You go in, they meet you at the door, them little lip,
Yes, sir.
animal-looking folks.
Right.
You know, big feet and all that. When you get there, I don't care how ugly your children are, they look normal.
Yes, sir.
When them little things be standing there jumping, ain't none of them over 3'2".
Yes, sir.
You know, and so you sit, but it's that rhythm you have.
Right.
That's why mothers buy rocking chairs.
Yes, sir.
See, when you sit in a rocking chair and nurse the baby, that's the same vibration
Right.
that goes through when they're walking across the room.
Yes, sir.
And so on the day, if you born on the 20th like Hitler, you celebrate
Right.
the birthday the day before.
That's right.
Because that's the day all them tubes, all them, the universe snatched them plugs out.
That's
and
right.
you start traveling down the fallopian tube
Yes,
on
sir.
the way out. That's why they say Christmas Eve party.
Right.
Why? The next day is the birthday of Jesus Christ. You celebrate the day before.
That's right.
New Year's Eve party.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now watch this. On New Year's Eve and Christmas Eve, if you go out and drink,
Right.
you can call
Cab.
and they
Get a
got to
free
take you
cab.
home for free.
Yes, sir.
Or they can be you go to jail.
Right.
You can't do that on Christmas Day.
Yes, sir. You on
Or
your
New
own.
Year's Day. Yeah, it's done. And so you look at, you know,
Yes, sir.
the whole, all the big stuff happened.
Shootings and
What
killings.
was the one that they burnt the whole, killed all them
Waco.
Waco was,
You had
was the
Waco.
19th.
Right. Yes, sir.
I
That
mean,
was
a
the
whole
19th
lot
as
of
well.
them was-
Yes, sir.
was
The
the
blowout,
19th.
the BP blowout was
Yeah,
on the 19th. Yes, sir.
You know,
Right.
And say Hitler lives.
Right.
you
That's
know.
right. Yes, sir.
And so and you remember when that Queen, what's his name, Prince Charles?
Yes, sir.
You know, he took a lot of flack on Halloween when that son of his
Yes, sir. Dressed
up in that Hitler
Right.
uniform.
That's right. Yes,
But
sir.
now let me say this, and I know you're good if you can pull this up, and I know you're good.
Yes, sir.
When I come back, I want you to pull up. Prince Charles was indicted.
Right.
Him and his partner.
Right.
He was indicted about a crime that had happened 5 years before
That's right.
at his summer mansion.
Right.
Him and his partner molested a young boy who worked there.
That's right.
And you know the story? Everybody squashed it.
Yes, sir.
In some kind of way, man. It
Right.
got out, and Scotland Yard was in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to
That's
indict.
the big story right now with the guy Jimmy Savile over there in London
Uh-huh.
that just recently got arrested. Big pedophile ring.
Yeah.
Goes
Oh.
all the way up to to Charles and the
Yeah,
rest
the
of the
whole thing.
family. Yes, sir.
So
right.
now when that got out,
Right. Yes, sir.
that's when Charles
Yes.
had to get him a wife.
That's right.
So he met this old ugly
Yes, sir.
white lady.
Right.
Oh, old white
Right,
lady.
right.
No money.
Camilla Bowles or
Yeah,
something. Yes,
yeah.
sir. Right.
So
right.
nobody, my
Right.
grandmother wouldn't think that he got that gay thing or that
That's right.
pedophile thing.
Yes, sir.
He got to love women to marry an ugly woman like that. Huh?
Yes, sir.
That's how they do it. That's
That's
how
how
they
do it.
cover
That's
it
right.
up.
They covered it up.
But you'll be able to pull up because Scotland Yard was in trouble.
Yes, sir.
This had happened 5 years before.
Yes. Yes.
In some kind of way, one of them newspapers busted it
Right.
and had interviewed the guy
Right.
and went through all of that. you
Yes,
know,
sir. Right.
in,
Yeah.
in the game. So,
That's right.
So you think about the stuff they can pull off with and get by. So
That's right.
we'll look tomorrow
Yes, sir.
and see,
Yes.
because if anything they blow up a nuclear plant,
That's
and I
right.
think that's where they're eventually going.
Yes, sir. That's why I asked the question. Yes, sir.
I think that's eventually going.
Right.
They're going to blame it on Islam.
Right. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And when you see these white folks and Americans laying in the street dead and
That's
burned
right.
up,
That's right.
now you think white supremacy is just one country?
Right.
All
All of
them,
them. That's
all
right.
them planes gonna take
Right.
off because I looked at a report where they were so worried about Islam,
Yes, sir.
so they did the research and found out all the Islamic countries in the world.
Yes, sir.
The average age
Yes, sir.
is 17 years.
And younger.
You hear me?
Yes, sir. So that's part of the depopulation, which
Did
most
you
people
hear what
have
I
not
said?
even realized.
17 years
and younger.
and younger.
That's right. Yes, sir.
across. So then they multiplied their production each year. How many?
Right. Yes, sir. Children, offspring they're having.
Yeah, how
Yes,
many
sir.
for the whole Muslim world?
Yes.
And they found out, then they multiplied by 1,000. They
Right.
said 1,000 years from now,
That's right. Yes, sir.
Christianity will be swallowed up
Right. That's right. Yes, sir.
Let's go get them now.
That's
this
right.
is what all this is about.
That's what it's really all about. Yes, sir.
What all this is about. And
Right.
Boston
Right.
was kind of the big symbol.
Right.
Because the nuclear plant down in Plymouth, they shut down, but they made a mistake. They shut it down on Saturday,
Right.
and the run wasn't until Monday.
That's right. Boston Marathon. Yes,
So
sir.
Who can shut down a nuclear plant? Federal government.
Federal government. That's it.
But
Yes,
they
sir.
made a mistake.
Right.
How'd y'all know to shut it down on
Right.
Saturday
That's right.
when the run's not till Monday?
That's right.
Mhm.
Yes.
Also in
Harrisburg,
Harrisburg, 3
Pennsylvania.
Mile Island,
Yes, sir. 3 Mile Island.
they had a dry run.
Right. That's right. And Tennessee.
Tennessee
Yeah.
Authority
Yes, sir.
had a guy shot.
Right.
Now wait a minute. Now. Here's we on high alert.
Yes, sir.
A guy got close enough to shoot at the plant.
That's right. Yes, sir.
Shoot at the plant.
That's right. Yes,
And
sir.
they running a dry run.
They running dry runs, and most of our nuclear power plants are not protected by America. They're protected by Israeli security company.
Yeah, let me tell you something else. See,
Yes,
the guy
sir.
told me. He said, every nuclear plant is built within a 7-mile radius of a earthquake fault.
Yes, sir.
I said, man, that's everything.
That's right.
There's so many earthquake faults. Now
Right.
you gonna come and tell me that
Right.
they deliver? You can't build nothing that's not in a 7-mile radius of an earthquake fault. Huh?
That's right.
So that's
Yes, sir.
But I think what they might look at,
Right.
is pulling that off,
Right.
and then another big one,
Another big one for September the 11th.
and then it's over.
Yes, sir.
And they got
Right.
it.
Right.
And they can do whatever they want to do.
That's right. Yes,
and
sir.
we got the documents that they was listening. They said, "It's going to pull this off here and pull this off."
Right. Now, before we wrap up, tie that in with what we have been seeing with the Trayvon Martin, because many have said as they were using the Aurora, Colorado, which was the kickoff, and that means red dawn as we look at the word Aurora and Colorado. But that was the kickoff to all these other high-profile shootings that was taking place. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, at the Sikh Temple, Sandy Hook in Newtown, Connecticut, and now, of course, using at least 2 high-profile cases in the black community with all these blacks has been killed. Hadia Pendleton in Chicago, and now Trayvon Martin, to perhaps use that to disarm in the black community first, but ultimately disarm the American people.
Well, they can disarm. That's easy.
Right.
But there's a group of us out here
Yes, sir.
that can't be
Right.
disarmed, and
That's
I
right.
think that's why they had to speed it up.
Right.
You
Yes,
know.
sir. Right.
And I know a lot of researchers
Yes, sir.
cannot, and most of the good ones are right wingers.
Yes, sir. Right.
Right wingers. You listen to them.
That's right.
You don't listen to them on race relations.
Right. No.
But listen, and they don't know.
Information. That's right.
They don't know.
Right.
I think Malcolm said, every bird got 2 wings, a left wing and a right wing.
Right. But talk about that. That's that left versus the right.
Yeah, but see, he didn't go into
Right.
that the universe gave you the
Right.
left one and the right one.
That's right.
And it meant for you to use both of them.
Yes, sir.
So you take a bird and cut his wing off.
Right.
They had a symbol of that.
Right.
Of veterans coming back. The symbol was a ruptured duck.
Right. Yes, sir. Right.
Duck
Right.
with one of the wings gone. And if you go back and pull up the symbol of veterans,
Right.
crippled veterans, was
the
a
ruptured
ruptured
duck.
duck.
Yes, sir.
So if you try just like your thumb,
Right.
there's a place in the back of your brain, man, that controls that thumb.
That's right.
Huh?
That's right.
And so if you took some tape and had somebody tape both your thumbs, you can't comb your hair,
That's right.
you can't drive your car,
That's right.
you can't change the baby's diaper,
Yes.
you can't count your money.
Right.
You can't put your signature on the thumb, man.
Right.
It's like that spark plug.
That's right.
And that $5 million car,
Yes, sir.
spark plug on, car
Right.
shuts down.
That's right.
Okay, and
Yes,
so
sir.
and so what happens once you look at that
Yes.
and see the power of it.
Right.
So the left,
Yes.
if
That's
you
right.
put your right hand in your pocket and try to function with your left hand, how much stuff you can't do,
That's right.
huh?
Yes, sir.
And if you put your right hand, and how much you can't do. And so the right side of the brain and the left side of the brain.
Right.
Now, when the problem happens on the left side of the brain, you call crazy. It's got
Right.
some pills for you.
Yes, sir.
The left side of the brain is the same thing.
Yes.
So when you got a nation that one thinks right, you see the United States Constitution is right wing.
Yes, sir.
That's why you physically
Right.
use that.
That's right.
When you get into the Declaration of Independence and that other, that's left wing. That's mental.
Right. That's right.
We hold these truths to be self-evident that all people are created equal and born with them. And when these rights are destroyed over long periods of time, it is your duty to destroy or abolish that government. Now, they ain't talking about no militia.
That's right.
They talking about when that right side takes over.
Yes,
you
that's
walk
right.
through bullets.
Yes, sir.
You understand?
That's right. That's right.
Them old foggy.
Right.
Well, see, I figured them old founding fathers, all of them had a sister.
Yes, sir.
You understand?
Right.
Now it might not be as lovable when you got a gun up against her head.
Right. Dr. Welsing called them the fondling fathers.
Yes.
Before we begin to wrap up, got to get your thoughts on
some of that could go for us.
Yes, sir.
I can't speak for everybody, but
say, as long as we've been here and among them, right? Say if you've been in filth for so long, and you adjust to the filth, you become filth.
Sure.
Talk about that as we begin to wrap up, because as we've been seeing with the Trayvon Martin murder, of course, in all of the aftermath now, and some people getting sidetracked worrying about the comments of Don Lemon, in terms of something about what black men need to do. Thoughts and comments on that before
when Don Lemon said that, I was shocked, because so long he was hid before he come out and admitted he was gay.
That's right.
But now look at the beauty of black folks.
Yes, sir.
Well, you know what he's telling, what he said about black folks.
Well, he gave him 5 things talking about what black men need to do. You know what I mean? In terms of pull your pants up. You know what I mean? Stop using profanity.
See,
you know what I mean?
All my gay friends, they want you to pull your pants down.
Yes, don't be wearing no hoodies.
So you might be lying about
Stop using profanity. Take care of your children. You know, those kind of things. You know, typical what most of the right wingers say for the most part.
But no, you're going to rape a woman.
You know, right.
And you pull your pants up and don't use no profanity.
Right. But to blame the victim, as you always say. Can you imagine a woman getting raped and they start talking about what she had on and what she didn't have on, but now become the black youth is what you had on.
A prostitute running out, walking down the street naked, you still ain't got no right to rape her.
Right. That's right.
You
Yes, sir.
So when you stop and think about the beauty of black people, he said all of that, and there's a whole lots of old black folks out there.
Right.
That do not appreciate homosexuality. They jump me.
Yes, sir.
How could you be for same-sex marriage? You know?
Yes, sir.
Please.
Right.
You know, but not one of them badmouthed him.
That's right.
For admitting he was gay. I'm talking about the one that believed gay is something against God.
Right.
They just ignore the priests.
Right. Yes, sir.
and the preachers.
Right.
And so, but that's the beauty.
Mm-hmm.
They did not attack him.
That's right.
At all.
Right.
Not one.
That's right.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
And so when you look at, people like him that's trying to appease white folks.
That's right. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Black on black crime.
Right.
Man, the Italians killed so many people in the Italian neighborhood. They called it a crime syndicate. they didn't have a name.
The Whitey Bulger trial right now. Yeah, he didn't say a word about Whitey Bulger. They killed a witness before the witness got to the witness stand on the trial.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Wait a minute. And look, he's a mean dude because he ain't never coming out of jail unless he know something.
He know a lot.
Also remember, he was a government
informant. He was an informant. Had two FBI agents we know that was working for him and killing people for him.
And went to jail.
Went to jail. Right.
So, but he said, y'all better hope and pray.
And he was dressing immaculate. You know what I mean? The mafia dressed immaculate.
Yeah.
Hitler dressed immaculate.
No had sagging pants. And all that,
right. Yes. So, and probably the ones that he said he was molested when he was a little boy, Don Lemon. Yeah. I'm sure it wasn't by somebody with the pants sagging. You know what I mean? Somebody was dressed immaculate.
Or with their pants pulled up.
Yes, sir. Before we wrap up, I want to get your thoughts and comments on this clip from Representative Davis in Chicago.
Herself.
Talking
Monique
about
Davis talked
shootings
to a
of
radio
blacks.
station in Detroit about the perceptions that she says some people in her district have about the murders of black youth in Chicago. ABC 7 political reporter Charles Thomas here with the story. Charles?
Ron Sherrill, Representative Davis insists she does not share the belief of some of her constituents who she says have made some serious claims about Chicago police.
I believe that the police work very hard to support our community, to bring peace in our community.
After expressing her personal belief that Chicago police are doing their best to quell street violence, Davis says when she spoke on a Detroit radio station about Chicago's high percentage of unsolved murders, she was only repeating what some people in her district believe about some of the killings.
Some people in my community believe the police may be involved in some of these murders.
I think it's absurd. I think it's inflammatory. I think it's also insulting.
Karen, the hairdresser, says she hears clients talk about it all the time.
People do think that. A lot of people think that. A lot of people in these neighborhoods, like in the Inglewood neighborhoods, because we have clients from all over. I don't think she said anything out of the ordinary. That's a conversation that people have.
Davis says the controversy is proof that the public image of Chicago police is still not recovered from high-profile brutality cases, and that she should not be condemned for saying what people think.
I was repeating what has been said to me many times by people of the community that I represent.
Davis says police need to work more on improving their image in her community. Now, we talked to more than one person, several people actually, who told us they'd had discussions or heard discussions of the kind described by Representative Davis.
Well, thoughts and comments on that, Bobby, before we wrap up, because this is happening around the nation.
Look, first, if you wanted to investigate, start at a low level.
Yes, sir.
And find out how many cops
right
own summer homes
right
in the Bahamas or Chicago.
Yes, sir.
In Miami.
Right.
I ain't talking about a little raggedy.
Yes, sir.
About $200,000 and $300,000 cops and look at their salary.
Right. That's right.
And say, wait, hold it. How is this?
Yes,
you
sir.
know? And the drugs.
That's right.
You deal in drugs, you also deal in murder.
That's right.
You know, and so that's what she's talking about.
Yes, sir.
In the beauty parlor, you hear everything.
That's right.
I mean, all the barbershop.
Barbershop.
They out there hearing it.
That's right.
know?
Yes, sir.
And they got a cold case.
Right.
Where one of the gay members of Reverend Wright's church, big, it was the choir director.
Yes, sir.
Shot in the head 12 times.
Yes. Donald Young.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I remember the name. Skolnick wrote about it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Skolnick?
Yeah, Skolnick wrote about it.
I thought Skolnick was dead.
He is dead. When he wrote, that was one of the last things he wrote about before he was dead. Yes, sir.
I made him go to jail.
Yes, sir.
No, Skolnick.
There was 3 of them in that church that was killed.
He was yeah.
Yes, sir.
And that was the church that the president
yes, sir.
belonged to.
That's right.
So I always thought that's how they'd make the president behave.
Right. Yes, sir.
Is bring that up and find some
right.
Negro in jail.
Yes.
Say, well, I know the president had him killed so it wouldn't mess up his election or all
right.
of that stuff. You
yes.
know?
Well, we're going to get into it.
The police know.
Yes, sir.
They know what that's about.
Right.
You know? So somewhere, I guess, when you look at.
Right.
I'm surprised that woman would say that because she
yes,
really hip because she knows.
Representative Davis. Yes, sir. Let's get some closing comments. One of the things I am going to get into next time you come on has been circulating all over the internet. Has been the pictures of Trayvon Martin's father being a member of one of the gangs down in Florida called the Crips, and he had a tattoo on his neck called CAT, Crippin' all the time. Mm-hmm. And since the funeral, he had that he got a tattoo now of 2 praying hands on there. Mm-hmm. So we're starting to look at him and put him kind of under the microscope and ask some questions about his Freemasonry connections, but also his gang connections.
So before we do that, when I come back, but pull up.
Yes, sir.
And see if we can have him on the phone.
Right.
The guy used to be in British intelligence, big.
Yes, sir.
The Committee of 300.
John Coleman. Yes, sir.
John Coleman.
Yes.
And on page 86.
Yes.
He has that the Bloods and the Crips was created at Stanford University.
That's right.
And so one time I was talking about that, and the number 2 Crip man said to me, man, fool, you don't know
yes,
what's
sir.
going on. The Bloods and the Crips is no more than what the Brown Church was in Nazi
right.
Germany.
Yes, sir.
Huh?
That's right.
And don't tell me that this is this and this. I know.
Right.
Now you go back, you got to be very careful what book
sir.
you get.
That's right.
Of John Coleman.
It got yes, sir.
One of them books got that snatched out.
Yes, sir. That's right.
They used
yes,
to
sir.
wait till you're dead
right.
before they take stuff out.
Yes, sir. All right. Get some closing comments, and we're going to wrap up and get up out of here.
Well, I just say to those of y'all that to survive the heat
yes.
in the area, start drinking a lot of water.
That's right.
Because so many of us is dehydrated from that.
Yes.
And some of the symbols, if you forget where you put your car keys.
Yes, sir.
And you looking for them.
Right.
You got them in your hand.
Yeah. That's right.
If you walk 12 blocks the wrong way looking for your car.
Yes, sir.
and you know the notes was paid, so didn't nobody take it. While
Right,
you was there.
that's right.
No, it's just some kind of way. The number one cause of death is
Yes.
sleep deprivation.
That's right.
Number 2 is dehydration.
Yes, sir.
800 people dies in hospitals every year from dehydration.
That's right.
Because they ask you care for anything to drink, and nobody said water.
Right.
What kind of fruit juice you got?
Right.
You know.
Yes, sir.
And another thing is just stop drinking all orange juice.
That's right.
To say thanks to Stevie Wonder, and punish the oh man, I meant to pick up that New York Times last week that had the story about the
Yes, sir. We got to wrap up. We got a
orange
show coming
trees
behind.
being
Right.
poisoned.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
We'll
we
do
get it.
Thank you. God bless your family again. That was the living legend, Baba Dick Gregory. Got a program, of course, coming on behind us. So make sure you keep. This is the Wise and Brunson Prayer and Praise Ministry with Reverend Janice Wise Roy coming up right after us on the State of the City. So we thank the living legend, of course, for joining us on the State of the City. And we'll podcast the show on our Spreaker page, on our Facebook page, and on our Twitter page. So I thank all of you that tuned in today, and we'll be back here on Tuesday at 12 noon. We do need your support to come longer and stronger, so please make those checks, money orders payable to WFBR. WFBR, do a righteous drive-by, drop it off at Terra Cafe. I'll be there later on today. Or you can send it to 159 8th Avenue, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21061. And until Tuesday at 12 noon, God bless, all the best, and the rest of you and yours. And coming up immediately right after the State of the City again, the Wise and again the Brunson Prayer and Praise Ministry coming up with Reverend Jenny Wise Roy. So until Tuesday at 12 noon, peace. And she's on the line now, so here now we'll bring her up. Make sure we got her up and got her on. Good afternoon. God bless you, and peace be unto you, my sister.